Hey everyone, so a few months ago I made a video series discussing every sim in Veronaville, whether they're deceased or alive, and I broke it down by generation with each of the three families, and I created an overall timeline based on what was analyzed and the hints that we were given for that neighborhood. So I'm going to do that with Strangetown, but it's going to be more complicated since there are more than three families and the generations within the families don't exactly line up perfectly like they did in Veronaville. So this video, or the first two videos, will be discussing the Curious and Smith families, and I do not know if it's going to be one whole video or I'm going to split them into two based off of each family. So the first person I'm going to talk about is Not So Curious, who was a family sim in his lifetime. He lived a long life as he died as an elder, and he looks very different in The Sims 2 than how he looks in The Sims 4, where he looks black in The Sims 4 but looks ambiguous in The Sims 2. His name indicates that he isn't curious, which could tie to his personality. His personality is kind of neat, shy, kind of active, kind of serious, and kind of nice, while his interests are the weather, money, the paranormal, fashion, travel, sports, and work. Now we are going to move on to his wife, Zoe Curious, who was a knowledge sim in her lifetime, which goes well with family sims, so I see them being a compatible couple. She lived a long life as she died as an elder and looks very different in The Sims 2 than how she does in The Sims 3 for the same reasons her husband does, meaning she looks black in The Sims 3 but looks ambiguous in The Sims 2. Her name indicates that she is so curious, which explains her personality and has a little contrast with her husband. Her personality is neat, shy, kind of active, serious, and in between grouchy and nice, while her interests are in the environment, politics, health, fashion, travel, and sports. So we're going to move on to the Hogleg family, and the first person in discussion is Ham Hogleg, who was a family sim in his lifetime. His name is a play on of two words for a pig, which is ham and hog. This could indicate that he was a pig farmer in his life, or was a pig slaughterer, or something heavily involving pigs. His hair was blonde and he died as an elder. I forgot to mention that Zoe and Not-So's hair were black before they turned into an elder. His personality is kind of sloppy, kind of shy, kind of lazy, kind of playful, and kind of nice, while his interests are in money, health, fashion, and that's it. He doesn't have many interests. And his wife is Annie Hogleg, who was a fortune sim throughout her lifetime, and fortune sims go very well with family sims compatibility-wise. Her name is also a play on of Annie Hogleg, also tying her to pigs. Since she is a fortune sim, I could see her running a pig farm or being heavily involved in the business and financial elements of it. Her hair was brown before turning gray, and she lived a long life as well, as she also died as an elder. Her personality traits are outgoing and active, but is somewhat sloppy, very serious, and grouchy, while her interests are in food, money, politics, health, fashion, crime, and sports. Now we're going to move on to the next generation, which is the second generation, and I'm going to start with the most unconnected person with the name of Glabe Curious, who was a popularity sim throughout her lifetime. Her parentage and lineage is not known whatsoever, so she could be a new migrant to Strangetown. We also don't know her relation to Glarn Curious, though it could be speculated that they were married, though others think that they were related. What we do know is that Glarn abandons her, and she has to raise Lola and Chloe all on her own. She does die as an adult, though her cause of death is not known, and that's a whole mystery within itself. According to memories, she died when Chloe was a teenager, but Lola was already an adult. This is an inconsistency, since both of them are stated many times to be twins, and how could they be twins and Glabe die when one was a teen and one was an adult? Her personality is in between sloppy and neat, outgoing, kind of active, serious, and grouchy, while her interests are in the weather, fashion, travel, and work. So now we are going to move on to her ex-husband or relative, Glarn Curious, who was a knowledge sim throughout his life. His aspiration doesn't go well with either of the women he's associated with, as they were both popularity sims. So he is the son of Natso and Zo Curious, and seemingly took his mother's interests and personality since they're both knowledge sims. It is unknown whether he was married to or related to Glabe Curious, but he got abducted by aliens and was pregnant with Lola and Chloe, where he abandoned them with Glabe when they were born. He ends up marrying Kitty Hogleg, where they have 4 children together in Jenny, Pascal, Vidkund, and Laszlo. He dies as an elder shortly before Pascal got pregnant, meaning that he died not long before the game started, akin to a Contessa Cap from Veronaville, who also died as an elder but not long before the game started. With this in mind, he lived a very long life. His personality was kind of sloppy, kind of shy, kind of lazy, playful, and kind of nice, while his interests are in the paranormal, health, sports, and entertainment. And now it is time to talk about his wife, Kitty Curious, who was a popularity sim throughout her lifetime. And as I mentioned earlier, popularity and knowledge sims don't go well together compatibility-wise, unless there are other ways that they could bond. She is the daughter of Ham and Annie Hogleg, and could have been raised in a farm or a rural environment altogether. Her name might be a play on words of Curiosity killed the cat, which is interesting, and might give hint to how she died, since we don't know how she dies. She marries Glarn Curious, where they have 4 children together: Jenny, Pascal, Vidkund, and Laszlo. Her personality is in between sloppy and neat, kind of outgoing, kind of active, serious, and grouchy, while her interests are in food, the weather, money, politics, paranormal, sports, entertainment, and work. Based on the memories of her children, it seems like she died a lot earlier than her husband, despite both of them being elders. I don't know if this means she's a lot older than Glarn, or she just died soon into elderhood while he was able to live throughout it. Now we are going to talk about the living members of the Curious family, and I am skipping Jenny because I will discuss her in the Smith section. With this in mind, it means I'm going to talk about Pascal first. Pascal Curious is a knowledge sim, and he is the second child of Kitty and Glarn Curious, though he has 2 older sisters in Lola and Chloe. He was taught how to potty train and walk by Kitty, and learned how to talk from Glarn. Jenny apparently turned into an adult during this time while he was a toddler, which is inaccurate based on family pics and their age bars. And Vidkund was born during this time as well. Laszlo was born when he was a child, which is also inaccurate based on photos, and he learned how to study from Glarn. While he was a teenager, he got into private school, lost a fight with General Buzz, and got rejected a first kiss with Circe, though they don't know another according to their relationship bars, which is odd. Kitty died right after he turned into an adult, and his memories claimed this happened before Jenny got engaged. He got a job in the science career after his sister got married, and his father Glarn died right before he got pregnant by aliens. Jenny's memories make it seem a lot less recent. He is currently a lab assistant and is 19 days away from becoming an elder when the game is loaded. Like his brothers, he is obsessed with aliens, and in his biography, it mentions that he believes there's a logical explanation for everything. He practices home psychoanalysis and collects conspiracy theories on his spare time. So he is cordial with his living family members, though he does not. Chloe, Lola, Johnny, Jill, or PT9. He is cordial with General Buzz, is enemies with Loki, who works in the same field he does, and is friends with Nervous Subject. His skills include 1 skill in cooking, 1 skill in logic, 10 in creativity, and 3 in cleaning. His personality is neat, in between shy and outgoing, in between lazy and active, serious, and in between grouchy and nice. All his interests are in the environment, weather, politics, paranormal, health, travel, animals, school, and sci-fi. When the game is loaded, he is in his 3rd trimester and is about to give birth to an alien hybrid within a few hours. So, the next person we are going to discuss is Vidkund Curious, who is also a knowledge sim. He is the 3rd child of Kitty and Glenn Curious, though he has 2 older sisters in Lola and Chloe. Pascal grew into a child right before Vidkund learned how to walk and potty train by his mother Kitty, and Laszlo was also born while he was a toddler. He was taught how to talk by Glenn. He met Circe when he was a child, and would become best friends with Laszlo and her when they are children. When they are teenagers, he went steady with Circe, and they broke up right after he peed himself. He is also enemies with her husband Loki, who also works in the science career. Pascal grows into an adult, Jenny gets engaged, and Kitty passes away right before he turns into an adult. Once he does turn into an adult, he gets a job in the science career, where he is currently a lab assistant when the game is loaded, and Glarn dies right before Pascal meets aliens, which are his most recent memories. The game's scripted events has Vidkund becoming abducted and impregnated by aliens when the game is loaded. He is 23 days from becoming an elder when the game is loaded. He is cordial with his 2 older siblings, best friends with Laszlo, acquaintances with General Buzz, Nervous, and Crystal, and he also has a crush on Circe, which isn't reciprocated, and is enemies with Loki. Like his older brother, he does not know Jenny's husband, children, or Lola and Chloe. His skills are in cooking, which he has 1 point in, logic, where he has 8 points in, and cleaning, where he has 2 points. His personality is neat, shy, active, kind of serious, and grouchy, while his interests are in the environment, weather, money, paranormal, travel, crime, work, school, and sci-fi. His bio mentions that he is serious and exact, and he strives to fit the universe into a nice, tidy package, while also having a fondness for African violets. And the final person we are going to talk about in this family is Laszlo Curious, who is also a knowledge sim, which he inherited from his brother's father and I believe paternal grandmother. He's the youngest child of Kitty and Glarn Curious, and like his brothers, he also does not know his 2 older sisters in Lola and Chloe. Vidkund grew into a child right before he was potty trained and learned how to walk by Kitty, and learned how to talk from Glarn. He became best friends with his brother Vidkund when he became a child, and learned how to study from Glarn. It's interesting how Vidkund and Laszlo are very close, but neither of them are close to Pascal. Kitty died, Vidkund grew up poorly, and Jenny got married when he was a teenager, according to his memories. When he turned into an adult, he got a job where he is currently a field researcher when the game loads, and I believe he is more advanced than his brothers in the science career. He burnt food, and Glarn died soon before Pascal met aliens, once again showing that Glarn's death is recent. He is 28 days away from being an elder when the game is loaded. He is cordial with his 2 older siblings, does not know Lola, Chloe, Johnny, Jill, or PT9, is best friends with Vidkund, is acquaintances with General Buzz and Nervous, and has a crush on Crystal. His skills involve 7 points in cooking, 1 point in logic, and 4 points in cleaning. His personality is sloppy, outgoing, lazy, playful, in between nice and grouchy, while his interests are in food, culture, paranormal, travel, sports, entertainment, work, and sci-fi. His bio mentions that he is not as studious as his older brothers, and he got his degree in phrenology. He likes to do pranks where he calls phone sidekicks, and he also spent a bunch of hours trying to bend forks with his mind. So clearly in the Curious family, there's a huge quest for knowledge to the chagrin or benefits of each of the members. But there's also a lot of family strife that isn't really discussed, and it's almost on par to the Keps and Monties, without all of the violence and hostility within those families. There are a lot of distant relationships, and it'll be interesting to look into them since it involves many members of the Smith family, who I'm going to move on to next. Now we are going to talk about the Smith family, and what's interesting about them is that not only are they the first alien family in Sims history, essentially, but the first 2 generations of this family never stepped foot in Strangetown or Sim Earth at all, but I'm going to discuss them because it's tradition for me to discuss everyone in the family tree, and we might be able to see how this affects the living members of this family. There are a lot of Birth Queens, so I'm just going to refer to them as Birth Queen 1, Birth Queen 2, Birth Queen 3. So we are going to start with Birth Queen 1, who was a fortune sim throughout her life. She had no meaningful relationship with Colony Drone 2121, despite them producing a daughter together. She died as an adult, which might hint that female aliens in their world die out once they no longer are in the reproductive age. Her personality is in between sloppy and neat, outgoing, kind of active, serious, and grouchy, while her interests are in the environment, food, culture, politics, and the paranormal. Now we are going to talk about Colony Drone 2121, who was a popularity sim in his life. He has no meaningful relationship with Birth Queen 1, despite them producing a daughter together. He also died as an adult, which might hint that male aliens in their world die out once they are no longer in the reproductive age, or once they are close to becoming elders, though it seems like elderhood doesn't exist just from looking at the family tree so far for aliens that aren't on Earth. His personality is kind of sloppy, outgoing, active, serious, and grouchy, while his interests are in politics, money, fashion, travel, and sports. So we are going to move on to Birth Queen 2, who was a fortune sim throughout her life. She has no meaningful relationship with Colony Drone 1000101, despite them producing a son together. She also died as an adult. Her personality is kind of sloppy, outgoing, active, serious, and grouchy, while her interests are in the environment, food, weather, money, politics, sports, and work. Colony Drone 1,101,000 was a fortune sim throughout his lifetime, and he has no meaningful relationship with Birth Queen 2, despite them producing a son together. He also died as an adult. His personality is neat, kind of shy, lazy, playful, and in between grouchy and nice, while his interests are in the weather, money, politics, the paranormal, travel, sports, and entertainment. Now we are completely finished with the first generation of the Smith family, and now we're going to move on to the second generation with Birth Queen 3, who was a romance sim throughout her lifetime. She is the daughter of Birth Queen 1 and Colony Drone 2121. She has no meaningful relationship with Colony Drone 65535, despite them producing a son together, and she also died as an adult, like her parents and the other aliens that I've discussed so far. Her personality is sloppy, outgoing, lazy, kind of playful, and nice, while her interests are in the environment, the weather, money, and travel. And the last of the ancestors that we're going to discuss is Colony Drone 65535, who was a popularity sim throughout his lifetime. He is the son of Birth Queen 2 and Colony Drone 1,101. He has no meaningful relationships with Birth Queen 3, despite them producing a son together, and he also died as an adult, like his parents and the other aliens I discussed so far. His personality is kinda sloppy, outgoing, kind of lazy, kind of serious, and grouchy, while his interests are in culture, politics, fashion, crime, and work. Now that all the ancestors are over and done with, we're going to move on to the third generation of this family and talk about the living members as the game loading. And of course, we have to start with Polynation Tech 9 Smith, who was a family sim during his lifetime. He is the son of Colony Drone 65535 and Birth Queen 3. Unlike most active sims, he has no memories whatsoever of his childhood and early adulthood. No memories pertaining to his parents or his pollinating days. His memories start with meeting Jenny in adulthood, becoming friends, kissing, falling in love with, getting engaged, and marrying her. After those events, he turned into an elder. So after that, he has Johnny, teaches his son all of his toddler skills. Johnny turns into a child right before Jill's birth, though the family photos contradicts this. He wins a fight against General Buzz. Johnny turns into a teenager before Jill is taught her toddler skills, and his most recent memory is Jill turning into a child. He has no memories about Lola or Chloe, though in his relationship bars, he actually has a decent relationship with them both, and he does know them, so this could just be a glitch. What's interesting about all this is that I don't know if either he chose to have his brain erased or there's some process where they erase his brain once he chose to go to Earth, and I think him being a family sim was a result of not having that family structure in his alien world where traditional families don't really exist. So when he came to Earth, he wanted to replicate that, essentially. And replicating that means replicating what he thought was the traditional family. So he is acquaintances with all of his children, he is married to Jenny, and acquaintances with General Buzz and Ophelia. He does not know any of Jenny's brothers, which I find interesting. He's also unemployed when the game is loaded, and once he joins Earth, he never had a job. So his skills involve 3 skills in cooking, 2 skills in mechanical, 1 skill in creativity, and 2 in cleaning. His personality is neat, kind of shy, lazy, playful, and in between grouchy and nice, while his interests are in the weather, culture, health, travel, sports, entertainment, and animals. Now it is time to talk about Jenny Smith, who was a family sim, and I could have talked about her earlier with her siblings, but I wanted to wait until now. She is the oldest child of Kitty and Glarn Curious, though she has 2 older sisters and future stepchildren in Lola and Chloe. She was taught how to walk and potty trained by Kitty and learned to talk from Glarn. She had a normal childhood according to her memories, though some of the memories are inconsistent pertaining to family pics. Pascal was born when she was a child, with Vidkund and Laszlo being born when she was a teenager. One photo shows that Pascal and Vidkund were born very early in Jenny's childhood, as they are both toddlers, while she is a child. There is another picture showing Jenny as a teenager and all of her brothers being children. And then there's another photo where all 4 of them are teenagers. It just contradicts her and her brother's memories. So she meets PT9 soon after she turns into an adult. We see this in a photo, and he has red hair, so he himself is an adult at this point, and they fall in love. Her mother Kitty passes away in between their engagement and wedding. She gets a job before her first son Johnny was born, and her father passed away before he became a grandfather, which contradicts her brother's memories. As I've stated earlier, their memories make Glarn's death extremely recent. Though if according to her memories, Glarn died before her almost grown son Johnny was born, that's not recent at all. Jenny would then give birth to Johnny and Jill, and according to her memories, she only taught Jill how to walk and is currently a nurse when the game is loaded. So she has 5 days left before turning into an elder, so she's quite a bit older than her brothers, according to their age bars. Her alien obsession comes in the form of wearing green, even when she was a child, and obviously marrying one. So she's acquaintances with everyone in her family, but her husband, who she's obviously in love with. She's acquaintances with Ophelia and doesn't know Chloe or Lola. Clearly, this has to do with Glarn isolating Jenny and her siblings from Lola and Chloe, but as they all grow up, I also think this has to do with PT9 isolating Jenny from her older half-sisters / half-step-children as well. So, her skills involve 2 points in cooking, 1 in mechanics, 1 in logic, and 3 in cleaning. Her personality is in between sloppy and neat, kind of shy, kind of lazy, serious, and nice, while her interests are in the environment, food, weather, culture, health, fashion, and entertainment. Now it is time to move on to Lola Curious, who is a fortune sim. Apparently, she's the oldest child of PT9 and Glarn Curious, and is older than everyone. She is supposed to be twins with Chloe, as we see this in pictures, though she is 8 days older than Chloe when the game is loaded. She does not know Jenny, Pascal, Vedkund, or Laszlo, so clearly she was isolated from them. I theorized this was initially done by Glarn when she was a child, and by PT9 when they were adults. So she learned all of her toddler skills from Glabe, and she has no memories or relations with Glarn, so he abandoned them essentially. When she became a child, she excelled in school and got into private school. Throughout hers and Chloe's memories, it shows Lola thriving in school while Chloe heavily struggled. Their memories also indicate that there's a gap between each of their ages as they grew up. Her memories show that Glabe passed away after she turned into an adult, but before Chloe turned into an adult, and that is a more recent activity, despite Glabe being an adult when the deceased Kitty and Glarn were adults. There are so many inconsistencies, and if they are different ages, that means Glarn would have had to have gotten abducted twice, and I just don't see that happening. So when the game is loaded, Lola has 20 days before turning into an elder, meaning she's significantly younger than Jenny, and is younger than Pascal, 2 people who are supposed to be younger than her, and despite Chloe being her twin, she is 8 days older than Chloe. So she is acquaintances with her sister, father, Johnny, and Jill, despite not knowing their mother or his wife, and her roommates Aaron and Kristen. So it's interesting that she has relationships with Johnny and Jill, as well as PT9, but has none with Jenny. That's not done by happenstance or coincidence. PT9 had to have clearly isolated them from Jenny, or Jenny went out of her way to avoid them. A lot of messiness happening that isn't delved into here. So pertaining her skills, she has 2 skills in logic and 1 in creativity. Her personality is sloppy, outgoing, kind of lazy, serious, and nice, while her interests are in the environment, money, politics, travel, work, and school. Now it is time to talk about Chloe Curious, who is a romance sim. So she's the second child of PT9 and Glarn Curious. She is supposed to be twins with Lola, as we see this in pictures, though she is 8 days younger than Lola. She does not know Jenny, Pascal, Vedkund, or Laszlo, all of her half-siblings, or her closest half-siblings in age. She learned all of her toddler skills from Glabe, and she has no memories or relations with Glarn, as he abandoned them. When she became a child, she flunked in school and could not get into private school. She and Lola had complete opposite experiences pertaining their education. Their memories also indicated that there's a gap between their ages by the time each of them grew up, from a particular phase in childhood. Her memories show that Glabe passed away after she turned into a teenager, but she did have a cool party before growing up, but Glebe passed away when Lola is an adult. The only way this all makes sense if there's like a year or two difference between them, but there's a picture of both of them as newborns, and they are also children at the exact same time. Chloe has 28 days before turning into an elder, meaning she's significantly younger than Jenny, younger than Pascal, and Vincent is the exact same age as Laszlo, who's supposed to be younger than all of them. And despite Chloe being her twin, she's 8 days older than her. This would also make her like 1 to 2 days older than Johnny, who is her younger half-brother / nephew. So she's acquaintances with her sister, father, Johnny, and Jill, despite not knowing their mother, his wife, or their uncles, and her roommates, Aaron and Kristen. Pertaining her skills, she has 3 skills in charisma and 1 in body. Her personality is sloppy, outgoing, lazy, playful, and grouchy, while her interests are in the environment, the weather, money, health, fashion, travel, animals, and toys. So we're continuing with the 4th generation of this family with Johnny Smith, who is a popularity sim. He is the first child of PT9 and Jenny Smith. He has 2 half-sisters / half-aunts in Chloe and Lola, as well as other uncles in Pascal, Vincent, and Laszlo. He learned all of his toddler skills from PT9 and met Ophelia when he was a child. He became best friends and went steady with Ophelia, but had his first case with her after Jill turned into a child. Johnny is a day away from turning into an adult, and gameplay storytelling when the game is loaded will suggest you throw a birthday party for him. This would make him about a day younger than his uncle Laszlo and Chloe, which is impossible for many reasons. He has acquaintances with his parents, all of his sisters, and Rip. He's going steady with Ophelia and is enemies with Tank. He also does not know any of his uncles, so I'm assuming Jenny isolated him from his uncles. His skills involve 2 points in mechanical and 7 in body. His personality is sloppy, outgoing, in between lazy and active, kind of serious, and in between grouchy and nice, while his interests are in food, culture, health, travel, crime, sports, entertainment, and toys. And the final person in discussion within this family or dual family is Jill Smith. She is the second and youngest child to PT9 and Jenny Smith. She has 2 half-sisters / half-aunts in Chloe and Lola, and also 3 other uncles. So Johnny grew into a teen soon after she was born, though there's a picture showing him as a child and her as a toddler contradicting this, and she learned how to potty train and talk from PT9 while learning how to walk from Jenny. She's acquaintances with her parents, brother, sisters, Ophelia, and Buck. So like her brother, she knows Lola and Chloe, but doesn't know her uncles. The one skill she has is a point in logic. Her personality is neat, shy, kind of lazy, kind of playful, and in between grouchy and nice, while her interests are in the environment, culture, fashion, travel, sports, entertainment, animals, school, and toys. So despite the Smith family trying their best to be a normal, traditional family, there's so many reasons why they aren't. And that's not even me including them either being alien or alien/sim hybrids. There's clearly a lot of distance and strained relationships or non-existent relationships between the 2 families. So now I'm going to try and create an overall timeline to make sense of all of this. Now that all of the information that was presented to us throughout the game has been discussed, now I'm going to create a timeline based off of the information that we received throughout the game and other descriptions and what genuinely makes sense. So it's some truth but also some prediction and speculation. Natso and Zoe Curious were born in the late 1900s, early 1910s, and were childhood friends. Natso was a very incurious person, and Zoe was a very curious person, which could be explained by their aspirations, which is family and knowledge. But those two aspirations go well together. Ham and Annie Hogleg were simple farm people born in the late 1900s and early 1910s, and both seem like farm people from their last names and appearances. They would go on to marry one another and have a very conventional and compatible life due to their aspirations and background. The Curiouses would birth a child named Glarn Curious sometime in the 1930s, and the Hogleg family would birth a child named Kitty Hogleg in the same decade as well. I would assume that Glarn and Kitty knew one another from childhood, but it's not confirmed since they don't have memories. How Glabe Curious comes into the picture is definitely odd, since she isn't related to Glarn by blood, as a sibling, cousin, etc., but there is absolutely no proof that he was married to her either, due to both of them not having memories. But them being married at some point is the only way things can make sense. Maybe the three of them were childhood friends or acquaintances, and that's why the inciting incident of Strangetown caused so much division between them and their descendants. Based on their grandchildren having no memories of them whatsoever, and there being no pictures of them with their grandchildren, I predict Natso, Zoe, Ham, and Annie passed away sometime around the late 1960s to early 1970s, when their grandchildren would be born. Birth Queen 1 and Colony Drone 2121 were born sometime around the 1890s in whatever planet or area that aliens come from. The former had a fortune aspiration and the latter had a popularity aspiration, so they kind of went well together, despite not being a romantic couple. Birth Queen 2 and Colony Drone 1,101 were also born sometime around the 1890s, and they both had the fortune aspiration, making them compatible as well. It seems like they are both given roles and duties that end up defining them, hence the women becoming birth queens and the men either becoming colony drones or what we will soon see, which are pollination technicians. The first couple, well, I shouldn't say couple, since they weren't married and we don't know if they only bred together, would give birth to Birth Queen 3, who I predict is born around the 1910s. She would also take over her mother's role as a birth queen, since her mother died as an adult, and I predict that Birth Queen 2's parents died soon after she became an adult in the 1930s. The second couple, or not exclusive pairing as I should call them, gave birth to Colony Drone 65535, somewhere within the 1910s decade as well. With his parents passing away as adults, I predict that they died once he became old enough to fulfill his role as a colony drone. It seems like once their children are old enough to fulfill their roles, the adults pass away and aliens in general have shorter life expectancies compared to humans, at least from what we see in this family lineage so far. Romance Alien Birth Queen 3 and Popularity Alien Colony Drone 65535 would give birth to what would become Pollination Technician 9 Smith, and I predict he was born in the 1930s. It is interesting that he would have a different career/role compared to his father and grandfathers, so he stands out in that regard. He has absolutely no memories of his life before he was on Earth, so I don't know if he intentionally erased most of it, or it's just something that happens once you go to a different planet. His parents would pass away as adults, so I predict that they passed away sometime in the 1950s or 1950s, just like their parents passed away elderhood. He would also grow to have a family aspiration, which none of his ancestors had. So he clearly craved for something more traditional and conventional. Now it is time to talk about what is definitely the inciting incident of not only the families, but the inciting incident of Strangetown in all likelihood. Glarn Curious is living with Glabe Curious in a presumed marriage, but nothing is confirmed. He ends up getting abducted. He is a knowledge sim, so this was something he was initially excited about, but it went wrong once they impregnated him. So clearly he freaked out because he, a man, is pregnant, and it was not by his own choice. He doesn't remember it happening, and how was he supposed to give birth when he doesn't have the reproductive tools to do so? We see a picture of Glenn, who just gave birth to Lola and Chloe, holding one of the babies with Glabe off to the side and the other baby on the floor. He would soon abandon the three of them and somehow ended up with Kitty Curious. Was he married to Glenn and had an affair with Kitty during this time? Was Glabe just a relative? So many questions and theories can be said about just the three of them. I predict that all of this happened in the mid to late 1960s. Glenn ends up raising Lola and Chloe throughout their childhood and youth, while Glenn and Kitty would have 4 children together in the order of Jenny, Pascal, Vidkund, and Laszlo. These 6 children have no contact with one another while they are growing up, to the point that the 2 sisters still do not know one another when the game is loaded, which takes place decades later. A family that would have benefited from being united were kept apart due to the trauma of a few people. Chloe and Lola grow up to be adults and Glabe dies around this time. It's clear that because she dies as an adult, and that she's around the same age as Glenn and Kitty, who die as elders, meaning that she must have died a lot earlier than them. Jenny grows up to be an adult, and it's around this time where PT9 arrives to Earth, and we see her meet him when he's an adult, due to a storytelling picture. I think based on his lineage, he decided to come onto Earth so he could avoid his fate, which is dying before elderhood, and wanting to go after attaining a proper family, as he was not satisfied with his job and his world ended. According to the memories, Kitty dies around the time Jenny starts her own family, and Kitty is an elder, so I think Kitty died soon after turning into an elder, and her death seems more distant compared to her husband's. Around this point in time, PT9 ends up in contact with Chloe and Lola, and they start to develop a rapport with one another over the years, and what's interesting is that Jenny still hasn't met them, so it seems like he hides his children from Jenny and vice versa. Pascal, Vidkund, and Laszlo all grow up still having nothing to do with Chloe and Lola, and they have not met Jenny's husband. Jenny and PT9 would have Johnny and Joel, but it seems like Jenny is hiding her family from her siblings, as her husband and children never met her brothers and vice versa when the game is loaded. Glenn ends up passing away soon before Pascal is abducted by aliens to be impregnated, and soon after Pascal's pregnancy becomes known, Vidkund is set up to be the next in line for impregnation and abduction when the game is loaded. Jenny and PT9 raise their kids, where Johnny is about to become an adult, Jill is still a child, while Lola and Chloe end up living with roommates Kristen and Aaron, who have their own stories that I'm going to delve into sooner rather than later.